If the data are still in the situation that we had in the 90s or 2000, the AI will never be able to take decision on top of the data. Ambiguity is killing literally the AI capability to take decision. So it's really important in the execution to don't hold on principles and just take the fast and the classic quick win solution that everybody loves. That obviously when you do a POC on 5 tables, everything's work perfectly. When you move into the data lake or the data mesh with thousands of tables, that does not work.
Welcome to Data Reality Check, where data meets the real world. This is the podcast where we take a step back from trends and terminology and look honestly at what actually worked, what didn't, and what we learned along the way. Today's episode is about something that has shaped many data strategies over the last few years: data mesh. It generated a lot of excitement, strong opinions, and in some cases, really unrealistic expectations. So now that the hype has cooled down, it's time to ask a more useful question. What did we actually learn from data mesh now that the hype has passed? To explore this, I'm joined by someone who has been deeply involved in real data mesh journeys, not just the theory. I'm really happy to welcome my friend and the co-writer of our books, Paolo Platter, to the show. Hey, Paolo, thanks for coming today.
Hello, thanks you.
Paolo is the CTO of Withboost, where he works on building platforms that enable data as a product at scale. And he has extensive hands-on experience helping organizations to adopt data mesh principles in practice, navigating platform design, domain ownership, governance, and all the very real tensions that come with decentralization. What I value about Paolo's perspective is that he's thoughtful and pragmatic. He doesn't treat data mesh as a doctrine, but as a set of ideas that we need to adapt, test, and sometimes correct in between different organizations. So, Paolo, looking back to data mesh, to all the hype for many years, we were part of this whirlwind already for long. I want to start with reflection and not with judgment. So when data mesh started gaining traction, there was a lot of optimism about how much it could change the data organizations. But now that we've seen it play out in practice, what do you think that generally worked, and what do you think it didn't really land it?
Yeah. So I'm in the data mesh story since late 19. I did the first implementation in 2020. Obviously, at that time, there were only the core principles, and the full storytelling was not developed yet. So we had to figure out a lot of things, but I think it was very helpful exercise, because starting from the principle and trying to, let's say, apply those principles in the data world has been very, very enlightening. And if we need to look back, I think principles, the fundamental principles, are the most interesting part of the data mesh. So basically the infrastructure automation, the federated governance, computational, data as a product, and the decentralization of ownership. Those 4 principles, I think they really resonate. Everybody understand also the trade-off that these 4 principles brings into the picture, and how they are connected each other. Then there are a lot of, let's say, derivation of this principle that has been applied correctly or not in many different fields. So I think data mesh is rooted in a very strong conceptual foundation. And this is making it a success. Also, we can see that the adoption of data mesh or data product thinking, probably data product thinking is the biggest part that is emerging and expanding in the market. But we can see a huge expansion of it. I would say that based on my conversation, my view in the market, more than 70% of the large enterprise are adopting at least data product thinking or data product principle. What people are not adopting fully are the four principles. So federated computational governance is still far, in my opinion. The self-service experience for data product creators, someone is trying to do it, but not at the level that is described and needed to enable the decentralization. So this sometimes is not clear to the people how much you need to make the platform self-service to enable a real decentralization of the ownership. And also the principle of data products, if we remember from the theory, which are the characteristics of a data product, there are several pillars. So independent change management, interoperability, semantic description. There are several characteristics that need to be applied to have a real data product. Let's say that some of them are applied, some of them, like interoperability, are completely forgotten by now. So we are still pushing in the community for that. I see a lot of interest and movement, especially with AI and semantic layers and the knowledge coming in. I think we are going in that direction, but still definitely not there. So very often for large enterprise, creating data products means segmenting their data landscape in a group of tables and make them a data product without changing that much the way you data model the product, the way you own and apply the change management. So there is still a lot of confusion, in my opinion, on this. What do you think?
I think the same. I really liked the theory when it came out, right? I even went to a Shamak training because the book is really good, but there are some parts like data as a product specifically that was not that in depth, or maybe not very understandable for people that were not that technical. And I wanted to understand better also like how to apply it right in the organization at that time, because there were not many examples at that time. Of course, we are like a full believers of data as a product and data product, right? I think this is the thing that came out with the most here to stay, let's say, rhetoric, right? The data as a product and data product. I would like to see more federated data computational governance, right? I think this automation in the cloud and so on is really, really good and should go side by side. But I think there were very misaligned expectations with the data mesh, and people thought that would be really easy to adopt that and really easy to scale. And you had to be ready, to change socio-technically data mesh as a discipline, right? Not only as a technology, not only as a tool, as something that will fix everything easy. It was more than that, right? Even as you said, interoperability between data products, the governance, the stakeholder management, the talks, the more deeper work that you need to do. I think that was totally misaligned. What are your experiences when you go to these big organizations and they have data mesh? Because from my experience, they say I have data mesh, and they are not even like 25%, from all the work they need to do. They have data products basically as renamed tables and not really semantic layers or automations in cloud or governance as such. It's just that they call it data mesh for some reason.
Yeah, I think a lot of mis-expectation on that level. As you said, very often just renaming what is already present into data product, let's say, is creating the misconception that the company is really moving, but in reality, the problems are still there. The old classical problems about missing metadata, low data quality, low intelligibility of data. So it's important that people understand that this transformation has a final goal, and the final goal is to enable the data to exit from being a liability and becoming a real value for the organization, that you can exploit this value with AI, and you can enable AI to take decision on top of the data. But if the data are still in the situation that we had in the 90s or 2000, the AI will never be able to take decision on top of the data. Ambiguity is killing literally the AI capability to take decision. So yeah, on this level, I see a lot of detachment from the technical people that are envisioning the data mesh and bringing the data mesh. Very often is the IT that is bringing this new concept into the company. Everybody understand the core principles, but then when they move into the execution, they fall behind and they create this misconception and misunderstanding also, because executive, obviously, when a company decides to invest in data products, they do with a certain purpose and certain goals, and for executives, then it's done. But if in the execution you fall behind, this will create a lot of problems in the future, because after a couple of years, when executive will listen people say, yeah, but the data is crappy, we don't know where to search the data, and it's not possible to apply AI on top of the data, then they will say, okay, but why did we invest in data mesh? That was supposed to solve all our problems, right? So it's really important in the execution to don't hold on principles and just take the fast and quick, the quick win, the classic quick win solution that everybody loves. So yes, when you move into the implementation, people are discovering that it's really, really hard to deliver on promises. Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the problems is that the people went for full blown big bang, right? So it was, oh, data mesh, let's implement it already. Boom, everything at once. And that's why I think for a lot of organizations, they feel like it didn't work, or it was just a hype or whatever, because they never had these conversations about, okay, what are business problems we want to solve, and what kind of data products we can create to solve these issues, right? So it goes again top down, not bottom up, which happen usually, it's just like the data people trying to do something and then try to show value. But if they don't understand the business side, usually it doesn't really work. And that's why I think the ones that I have seen fail is because of that, or the ones that are halfway through is also because of that, because they don't have real use cases. And as you mentioned, with AI, it's happening the same, right? Everybody's doing pilots with AI, and only, I think, one study from Gartner that I read, I think it says only 5% of all the pilots make it to production, right? And they don't stay alive for long either. Because again, they are like, okay, I saw this on LinkedIn, and I want to have this pilot and make it happen. But it's not what business is asking for. It doesn't go, hand by hand with the company goals. And as you said, the C levels is like, okay, you told me this will resolve problems. I will be able to have better decisions and do this and do that. But where is it? And they don't want to fund the data team anymore, right? Yeah. And that's why you see the CDO life is so short, right? No more than a year in this position, because they are not able to show value.
Do you start typically from a champion domain for introducing data product concept?
Usually
from the IT bottom up, or from a champion domain top down?
I mean, for example, when I was in this previous company, what we did, it took us maybe a couple of months to find the right use case and to find the right domain, because we wanted something that will bring immediate value, where we found the most problems, and that was also a streamline. So we can also already have some, a contact with the software engineering side, and being able to put this as some, let's say, champion domain, right? And then from there, I start creating. But I see other organizations that they just start with random, and then is where the interoperability have issues, right? Because there is no connections in what you do. For you, how is it?
Yeah. I always prefer to start from the bottom, from the IT, and then force the IT to get one champion domain in before even starting. Because then when you show the value to one business domain, then it's easier to convince the others. From an interoperability standpoint, that's something that need to be planned carefully at different level, because there are different kind of interoperability. There is the technical interoperability. No, if you are able to join to two data products that maybe sit on different technologies, because there is in large enterprise a huge fragmentation in terms of technology. And then there is the semantic interoperability, and also that need to be planned in the platform, in the automation, in the governance. So if you forget about that, you will never have it. Yeah, I think you need to work on both sides. From an IT standpoint, you need to plan carefully to create something that deliver value for the business and really enable them to own the data products. On the other side, you need to onboard the one champion domain always, and not open too early to too many domains, because otherwise the effort of evangelization, explaining the platform, onboarding them, it's overwhelming. And then you risk that if the platform is not ready enough, the experience is not satisfying, you have a huge drawback in terms of reputation and so on. So you need to be planned carefully, in my opinion.
Yeah, now that you mentioned platform and domains, you know that there is a lot of tension between the platform teams and domain teams. So in the theory, you have these clear boundaries. Most of the times, the people don't know how to implement these boundaries. So from your experience, where these responsibilities get confused between the platform and the domain, and what will be like the best way to define these boundaries?
In the market, I see a lot of different situation on this specific topic. So really based on the organization of the company, so how departments are cut, let's say, in terms of responsibilities, and also based on what has been built historically. The let's say the line where the platform ends and where the domain start can be really different and blurred. So for example, there are companies where each department or each domain are actually doing everything independently. So they have huge autonomy, but there is no common governance. So each domain can select their own tools, technologies, way of working, governance policies, because maybe different departments have different compliance concern. Instead, there are other companies that during the year they already set up like a central IT that is taking some architectural decision on behalf of the domain. So based on this, you can have very different setup, and you can have very different meaning of what a platform means in the context of data products and data mesh. What I say is, let's say, a platform team need to provide a service. So if we refer to team topologies, a platform team need to provide collaboration as a service. So this is where you can find a clear demarcation between the platform and the domains. If you are able to establish where the service is located and rooted, then you can spot a platform team. I see that in some very complex company where there is a lot of shadow IT, the platform layer is very, very tiny, and they try to build a federated platform team. So a platform team composed by exponent by each domain, and they try to do not take hard decision at technological level, like, okay, let's move into one single technology, one single platform, so we have the technical interoperability. They prefer to say, no, okay, Department X will stay on Snowflake, they stay on Cloudera, the other one, they use Databricks. That's fine. They just try to create a common life cycle for data product and a common light governance for data products. This to me is not really respectful of the data mesh principles, because in theory the platform need to provide a standardized layer for governance and for technology, also to enable interoperability, but in some cases it's not possible. So because the inertia and the gravity of the brownfield that is already present in the organization is too much. You cannot move it. So you need to start from something that you can move forward in step by step in an incremental way, and then maybe in the future you will go backward in also managing other things. So the friction between autonomy and governance is an historical one in IT. The more autonomy you provide, the less governance you get. What is really clever in the data product principle is that thanks to the federated governance, thanks to the platform automation, there is the goal of find a better trade-off that provide enough autonomy, enough governance to make decentralization possible. This trade-off is something that in many organizations is still not understood, and it requires a journey, a maturity journey to get there, in my opinion.
I think it's the best option, of course, will be to have the data platform team that manages, the infrastructure, the best practices, the governance, and provide independence to the domains, but with a set of tools, right, and regulations and so on. So your data platform team can be the one who leads by the example, because usually they will have a little bit of data, not too much, but put the catalog, for example, do the masking and security, IAM roles, and so on, and then train the domains to use this catalog of tools. But as you mentioned, I have seen a lot of companies that have mergers, for example, and there are new teams with different platforms, and they don't want to leave whatever they had before, Snowflake or Cloudera, as you said, or something like that. And that's difficult to reconciliate. But I also have been that successfully working in the sense like, okay, we're going to give a couple of years or 1 year time while we slowly migrate to our tools. Or sometimes the data platform absorb as well that tool, and then like, okay, you can say that, but we will manage it as well. So it's available also for maybe other teams that might need it, but only if it makes sense, right? Because I don't know, maybe they have financial information or healthcare or something that are more complex sets of data that they need to keep isolated in one different system. But I think it's a trade-off, right? Like to be completely decentralized or to be partially or centralized again, because I see also a lot of trends like, oh, now let's go decentralized. Oh, no, let's go centralized again. And then they go decentralized again. And this is a never-ending story, right? So I think the teams learn the hard way with this kind of topics. But I wanted to ask you something about the responsibilities, right? Because they get confused a lot. And a lot of organizations feel like the data platform team is like sniffing too much into the domains. And I'm like, wasn't it supposed to be decentralized? Wasn't it supposed to, have some kind of freedom here?
Yeah.
What have you seen?
In my opinion, what need to be centralized are way of working. So how people operate and how people manage the life cycle of data products. You need to have a consistent life cycle management for data products. You need to have some engineering standard that is centralized, because engineering standards allows to create interoperability technically and semantically. And you need to centralize the governance policy. So what is mandatory, what is optional in terms of metadata, in terms of compliance. We have tons of regulations. You cannot delegate this to the business domain. You need to have some central point of control for compliance and governance. So that for sure need to be in the platform team and need to be centralized. What instead you can decentralize fully is the implementation and the internal implementation of data products. So software architecture, implementation pattern, streaming, batch, whatever it is. So everything is not affecting a global and common interest for the organization. Is not really important to govern and control. You can fold on those elements. So until you are compliant with certain criteria that instead are useful for the common good of the company, then it's fine to me. So if you describe data contracts for semantic and technical interoperability, and also to, let's say, protect the downstream consumer and in general the ecosystem of people working with data, then how you implement those things is not really an issue. It's not really an important element. So what we always try to do is to put governance and centralization on all those elements that affect in some way the final result for the company. So compliance, extraction of value, and people satisfaction. We don't want to have people fighting because there is a breach in the contract or whatever. So these to me are the golden rules to understand what need to be centralized or not.
Yeah, I think, for example, I have heard, in the community, in the data community on LinkedIn and Substack and so on, some people really pushing for certain standards, to follow in contracts or data products or this or that, which I think is okay to have as a reference. But sometimes, depending on the organization, you cannot stick to one standard necessarily, right? You can take it maybe as a base and then go, because I'm a fan or a believer of governance that give you freedom and not that constraints. I'm a fan of governance. I'm a fan of data contracts, quality, everything that you can imagine. But I feel like most of the times, after years of experience, you need to adapt certain rules, right? Depending on the business. As you said, maybe some departments needs more, let's say, constraints in terms of security and so on. Some others can be more flexible. So it's about also to understanding the needs, because when I implemented the data mesh in the Swiss company, we had like a lot of business units as well, and they were big. And some of them, of course, we just decided to put there, look, this is what we have, right? This is like the set of artifacts, to roll over with the data mesh. But you don't have to follow them 100%, because if you start to pushing those ideas, usually you receive a lot of pushback, right? Like, no, this is not what we're looking for. No, we don't want that, and this and that. And we want actually to enable the people to say, okay, actually, that looks good. I would like to use it. And this is what has started to happen eventually. Like, hey, I like that idea. Would you mind sharing more about it? So we can use it in the future. This is what we're looking for at the end, right? If we want to implement something as a data platform team, as a data strategies governance person, it's better just to slowly show the value, as you said, with other domains or with other departments, and then they will come. It's not like build and they will come, but it's more like prove it and then they will come.
I totally agree. Someone talk about minimum viable governance. So when you were referring to the standards, so what you need to constrain and what you need to where you need to provide freedom. So there is a minimum set of governance elements that you want to standardize, but as you said, then needs will pop up continuously. So another important element for a platform team is the product mindset. So the platform that you're going to build is a product too, is an internal product. So you need continuously to listen the market, understand the needs of your user, and evolve the platform. Regarding the data contract standard and data product standard, I think like you said, so they are very good for awareness for people to understand what a data contract means and so on. They are very good to have a starting point. But honestly, I always seen companies starting from an open standard and then moving forward in unpredictable directions. You don't want to be constrained by a specification in the long run. So also tooling need to be flexible enough to accommodate these specification changes over time. And a single specification cannot accommodate all the specific needs of large enterprise because obviously we have vertical needs. Finance, you need to have DORA compliance. So where is the DORA compliance part in the specification? It cannot be there because that's specific for finance. And every vertical market has its own specific need. Then every company has its own risk management framework, and you need to be compliant when you create an asset and you are deploying this asset in production. The asset need to be compliant with the internal risk management framework. It's not possible to. So the public and open standard is a good starting point, but then every company will, in my opinion, will move in unpredictable direction and very custom one.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And as you said, they are good. They are a good reference. It's a template, right? But you might need to edit that and refine it for your own needs. And you cannot fill up maybe all the fields that are there if you're in a small company, but maybe you need more than that, right? When is it necessary? Same with the data product, standard definition and so on. I actually, now that we're going back to data products, data as a product, let's say at scale, that's one of the biggest problems of data mesh. Because of course, in theory, the data mesh is built on the idea of data as a product, right? And in practice, I have seen many companies having problems with scaling that idea. And I would like to touch, because you talk with a lot of enterprises because of Withboost and so on, from what you have seen, what made data products actually work across domains? Because it could be working just for one domain, but what happens when you scale bigger than that?
Yeah, interoperability is the biggest issue because it's really hard to achieve, both on theory and practice. It requires architectural vision. It requires business understanding. It requires a lot of understanding of how the data is produced and then consumed, because then it's a matter of match producing producer and consumers. I see a lot of disconnection. When you scale very often. Who is producing data product? Then they are consuming those data products within the same domain. There's no strong need of exchanging data across domains. But because we are at the beginning, because in reality, I think in the end, instead, the cross-pollination of data across multiple domains is super useful. You can do correlation, you can do unexpected use cases that right now is not possible to do. One of the point about data as a product scaling is the product thinking. So what is missing is the product thinking. because you cannot manage a product with a project thinking. Projects are typically one-off, and then someone else will take care of maintenance if needed and so on. Instead, products need to be evolved continuously, assessing the opportunities that you have in the market, trying to figure out which use case you can build on top of the product. So it's a completely different setup. And also the operation, the maintenance of metadata need to be done with a stable team. If you continue to change people taking care of specific data products, could be really, really dangerous. Obviously, this does not mean, because this is another misconception, that you need one dedicated team for each data product. I say, oh my God, how many people do I need in the organization to manage the data products? So obviously, you can have a stable group of people managing multiple data products, but you need to have a clear accountability, a clear and stable ownership that will take care of the change management of a pool of data products. And this is a big shift for organization. They are not used to organize the work to have internal products. And as I said, the platform is an internal product too. So managing the platform by project, it's challenging. It's challenging, honestly.
Yeah, I was talking to Tom Redman the other time, and we were thinking about how we need more product people, but from the software engineering side and from other parts, because they come with a fresh view compared to the data people we have today, right? Usually, like product owners or project managers, they come from the data side and they are biased because they were data engineers or something like that, right? And we lack of this product vision. That's why I wrote, this from projects to product. And as you said, it's dangerous if you keep changing teams and so on. And what I explain to a lot of product managers is the same thing. Like, you don't need to have like 10 project managers, and managing a data product is not like completely alienated to you. Actually, with the skills that you have, you can manage a project end to end without any problem. Of course, if you know a little bit of Python, a little bit of QL or something like that will be beneficial. But really, you don't need to be a data expert to run a data product, right? Or a data project, like a real one for the long term. But they will know how to measure, how to have ownership, how to report these things and communicate with the business and the data people as well, because that's a lot of the disconnection as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about product thinking when we go beyond of a handful of domains and prototypes. Like, how does it evolve over time? What is the future once you have the first domains?
Do you mean how do you onboard the new domains and the scaling of the implementation? For sure, having a champion domain and demonstrating value in a champion domain is creating an internal demand. So what I always suggest to do is to do a lot of celebration internally about the first champion domain, maybe the first 5 data products in the marketplace and whatever, because it's possible to trigger an avalanche effect. So seeing someone being celebrated to be successful on data product implementation will trigger the desire of being on that journey as well. So it's really important to have a lot of communication internally about the roadmap of data mesh implementation of data products and the success along the journey. So that's typically how it expands across multiple domains. Also, another possibility, when you start from a use case that typically involves one domain, then you can try to find another use case that instead involves 2 domains, the first one and an additional one. So half of the job is already done by the first domain, and you just need to involve the second one, but creating a common So something that creates value for both domains. So there will be also a push between business domain to reach the goal and to do the proper implementation. So then it's like domino, no? Once you get one piece, then you attach the next one, and you go like this, that expanding the landscape. Another thing that I'm observing that is not strictly related to data product is that the same principle of data products can be applied also to other things that need to be decentralized as well, like the implementation of AI agent that are deeply rooted in the business because they are typically optimizing business processes. So also AI agent implementation need to be decentralized and need to be connected with the data. So another possible path to expand the platform and the success of the decentralization in general is to expand by domains, but also to expand by practices. So you start by implementing data products, and then you expand by implementing AI agent. And then at that moment, people in the rest of the organization, they will see even more value that has been generated because you have both data products and agents solving real use cases. So you offer more capabilities, you are offering more enablement for people to build both data product and AI agent. And this is a bigger incentive for people to jump into this story of decentralization, because in the end, it's not about creating data product. It's about decentralizing data management and AI management and knowledge management. It will come next. So for me, that's the real story that need to be created inside organizations.
I completely agree, because especially with the AI era, I think that data product is crucial. We need data as a base. We need the data that is, with a good quality checks, that it has contracts, that it has a semantic layer, that has all the information that is already groomed and perfect. So the AI developers can just grab whatever they need and start creating agents, or whatever other AI product they would like to have, or a deterministic AI model, which is also, I think that people is hyping a lot in AI, and there is a lot of things that could be resolved with normal machine learning. But that's another topic, probably for another day. But I think that definitely data products is the base for the future. I even call it already like AI products, because it's another derivation out of it. And as you said, naturally, this shows value and it move forward with other domains and with other teams and so on.
Yeah. I don't know if you see this, I'm seeing on my customer the exploding the chat with your data use case, no? The possibility to extract and do queries basically in natural language. That obviously when you do a POC on 5 tables, everything's work perfectly. When you move into the data lake or the data mesh with thousands of tables, that does not work. Okay, so the only way to make it work is to create a perfect description of data products with a lot of business context, a lot of example, golden set, data quality rules. All this information will make the data intelligible for the AI, and can make this dream making a reality. So very often I start from the top and say, okay, you see, do you want to do the chat with your data use case? Now I show you how it works without a data product or with very good data products, and you can see the difference, yeah, in reliability of response and answers. So that's another trick, also internally, to make people understand what is the value of doing this kind of transformation.
That's a great tip, especially for all these people that comes with a high, wants to have like their chatbot or the AI offering like this. Like I get a lot of hey, I want Agentic AI. And I'm like, but you don't have anything. How? I was actually talking with Ole this week. I was interviewing him as well, and also with Jessica Talisman a few weeks ago. And of course, we agree that we need a lot of semantics. We need a lot of metadata because the LLMs don't do well reading, as you said, a lot of tables or files in a data lake. And this will compromise eventually the results. In the current project that I'm working, I asked the head of data, okay, so you want to have this AI product and blah, 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 but you don't have a semantic layer at all, and you have some tables renamed as data products. How are we supposed this? And I was like, yeah, we have a pilot. We think it's an 80% reliable, but the business people think it's only 60%. And at the end, the business people are the ones who consume it, right? It doesn't matter if I think it's 80 or 900.
They have the feeling.
Exactly. So before we wrap up, I want to ask you two closing questions. Actually, three. So if an organization were starting a data mesh journey today, with the benefit of hindsight, what would you advise them to do differently?
For me, what it really makes the difference is the platform pillar. So if you do that very good, then you can solve the data as a product, at least not the product thinking, but at least the interoperability and the technical part. You can solve the federation of governance. So how do you automate governance and you make it part of the data product lifecycle? You solve the data product lifecycle across all the domains. And more important, you create the proper context for autonomy, because everything is rooted in the autonomy, but the IT need to understand that it's not about providing tools to create autonomy, but is about being an enabler and create blueprints and create a golden path with guardrails to create such autonomy. So this is, to me, the most important part in the transformation. In the past, I failed in building this platform. I learned a lot from my failures. So I strongly believe that this is the core part to drive the transformation.
Thank you. The next question. First, what is one belief about data mesh that you think we should finally let go of? That we are maybe hanging on there too much, but we should keep moving and not focus only on that part, but maybe in another more important or more valuable way.
One thing that I see that I value, but people don't value at all, is the atomic change management. So seeing the data product as an atomic unit of change, that to me is crucial to scale the change management in a decentralization. But I see people folding on this principle a lot. So probably that could be something that in the future will disappear. But not because it's wrong, but probably people don't get what is the importance. So from a practical standpoint.
And the last one is, what is one lesson from data mesh that you think will shape data management and AI readiness, even if organizations no longer call it mesh anymore?
I think the principle behind decentralization and what is required to decentralize a practice. No, data management is a practice. So here we are talking about how do we centralize the practice that historically has been centralized. And to me, those principles are applied to several different contexts. AI that typically have a central data scientist team doing a use case for everybody. I think that's not scalable anymore. And knowledge management as well. Typically, you have the ontologist group of people doing the ontology for the whole company. Not possible, too big to handle. You need to decentralize that. So to me, the biggest lesson learned has been, okay, which are the ingredients to make the decentralization possible in a large organization? I think this will survive a lot in the future.
Thank you so much, Paolo, for being here today.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
So this conversation shows why it's so important to revisit ideas once they've been tested in reality. Data mesh was never about decentralization for its own sake. It was about scaling data as a product positively. And the real value comes not from repeating the pattern, but from learning it helped out and where it didn't. So you've been listening today to Data Reality Check, where data meets the real world. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time with more real talk from the front lines of data and AI. Stay data driven. Thank you. Bye.